So obviously what we expect after talking about that is, once we see this big juicy candle after a correction phase, we can start to go, okay, it seems like there's more supply in the markets than there is demand, which again, we can look from a positive perspective. So let's just drop down to the lower time frames, the daily, and what is going on. Well, we look from a macro perspective, you can see that the market is pretty easy to understand it. We're just working in them phases. We're just working in them, phases of them waves that are happening, and guys can see that it's a correction phase is here, and we're most likely now going to get that, that sell off. So that is what I'm looking for inside the markets. We haven't filled in a whole of this imbalance. I would have liked a correction to be around the 13,000 area. We've not had that, but we have had this movement away. So what can we see right now? Well, this was our higher low last week. This is our higher high last week. And as you guys can see, we obviously had that change of trend. So now what I want to see is, can we have a retracement and then just carry this trend on downwards? So that's my predominant thoughts. Because if not, and remember this last candle, even though it was a big one, this last sell candle here was our demand candle. If the demand was in control, we would have had a correction and we would have carried on upwards from here. Put a 1 in the chat if that makes sense. If that makes sense, just put a 1 inside of the chat. Amazing. Okay, so with that, what can we expect now the markets to do? So if we look at it from a daily standpoint, the first thing that draws my eye is this candle here is my supply candle. That is what's really, really drawing to myself. We've got some imbalance here. Pretty much the whole of the other leg on here. Can you guys agree that we don't really have imbalance and everything seems to be filled? If you look, this candle is a similar candle to this, but this area here wicked up, filled in this imbalance, and then we got a movement away. Can you guys see that? Let me know in the chats if you can. Put a Y in the chat if you can see what I'm trying to explain. And if you guys don't quite understand what I mean, the market is always seeking liquidity and it's always looking to rebalance itself. So if we look at this scenario here, in order for an imbalance to occur, we have to have a minimum of 3 candles. So let's say that we have, as you guys might see, we have a wick on either side of this, like this. If the first candle and the third candle, if the wicks don't meet, so they don't actually meet, so they're not like this, that means if they have it like that, that means it's a fresh market. We've got nothing to rebalance. If we don't, and the actual wicks are a bit smaller and we have a gap between these two wicks, then of course that means that we have an imbalance within inside of the market. So that will usually means that the market will tend to make its way back, fill in that imbalance, and then slowly start to go where it originally wanted to go. Just put a 1 in the chat if that makes sense. And imbalance is like this. Hopefully you guys that are watching this on replay as well, will understand it. So you guys can see that that is what we're looking to seek is, can we see where the imbalance may be, where we have a demand and supply area. So look at this scenario. We have this candle, this wick starts here, and this first demand candle here, the wick starts there. So naturally, we have, if you look, a gap between this wick and that wick, and we're starting to fill it a little bit here. So this is a gap, an imbalance. So what I'm expecting the market to do is, first and foremost, I want to see retracement to this demand area. So pretty easy to understand. You guys can see that this is a demand area that I'm looking for the market to basically come into. It's a fresh demand. And then if we go to the 4 hour, since knowing this, I'm always looking out for these. Amazing, amazing, Denise. So if you look at this right now, from a daily standpoint, I want to see this filled as a minimum. If we drop down to the 4, you'll be able to see that even though we just melted off from the supply area that we gave last week, you'll be able to notice that there is a lot of gaps in between this. So if I'm completely new to, obviously understanding this strategy, what I would wait for is, first thing I would do is I would get a Fibonacci, this Fibonacci tool here, Fib retracement, and I would want to see where we can potentially come into. So I want to see at least the market retrace above 50%. Most likely into the 786, 886. So if you guys are unsure, there's two scenarios that I always give. Mark out your range, and then if you want, you can start from the 786 or the 618. So you can literally go, okay, I'm not too sure what candle to go from. I can start out at the 618 from here as my supply area, or you can start to refine it to like the 786 if you're unsure. If you are confident enough, you can go, okay, what is the last buy candle that caused the movement down and broken the last lower low? Well, this is the last buy candle. So what I can do is I can mark out this candle here, and I mark out to the top, and I can have that as my 4-hour supply area. Does that make sense? Let me know. So now not only we have the daily, we can also predict that we have a 4. And then what you guys can do is you have multiple different options. And this is the beauty of this strategy is you can start to set limits from your 4-hour supply. You can set from the edge of the box. So, two scenarios would be you can set a limit from here, give yourself some wiggle room with the stop loss. Obviously, I know we're on a dollar. You aim for your 1-to-1s, 1-to-2s, or you aim for the lows. Second option is 50% of this box for a better risk to reward. So that's option number 2. Or option number 3 is you become, let's say you've been a bit more experienced. I think I talked this about like Michaela, for instance, and I always seem to go back to Michaela, but she's an OG. So let's say that we get a retracement now back to our zone. And for instance, Michaela does trend trap. So let's say that Michaela has her entry, which is a counter trend line. Same scenario. Like you guys can use multiple different strategies with this. This is just how the markets move. Once we break that counter trend line, that's when someone like Michaela might go, okay, I'm now happy to sell this from this area. Michaela, am I right? Let me know. And guys, let me know, putting a Y in the chat if this makes sense. So again, there's multiple different ways. Like you can, whatever works best for you, you can use that. But I do highly advise that if you're getting on these calls, I'm not just like guessing, not saying anything about it, but this is like I'm talking about individual candles that's in the market. So I'm telling you guys, we need to be like really knuckling down on individual candles. Like this supply candle. This candle has a meaning inside of the markets. The imbalance has a meaning. This is why I'm so excited for you guys who may be experienced or inexperienced to learn from Trade House, because it's not just me trying to put a little bit of support and resistance on a chart and try and look for a guessing game. This is what is each individual candle actually mean. So looking at this, let's go back to the 4. That's exactly what I'm looking to do. Of course, if you want to be a bit more reserved and not reserved, you want to be a bit more like precise, you can just go off that last candle because it imbalances here. So you guys have, whatever it is, if it's this one, or if it's that one, you guys can utilize it. So let's see what happens going into today. But looking at this right now, we're starting to get, pardon me, we're starting to now get an uptrend. So again, for the ones that are a bit more experienced, if the market is to carry on from this area of demand is where we're going to come into on the 4th. This is a 4-hour demand candle. So obviously we're looking to buy this up into this zone to at least the 50% or 618. You can look to sell Euro USD, NZ USD, Juhu USD, so on and so on and so on. Let me try and refine that. Yeah, pretty much this institutional candle that took this low. I'm expecting the market to, here we are going to potentially just carry on from here, break another high until we get up into this zone, and then we got to make a decision. So guys, you understand, like if you're looking at the dollar from this area here, we're not looking potentially for the long term. We're going to be holding until we see a reaction from this area. Let me know if that makes sense. So that is the US dollar. Going into Euro USD, going into Euro USD, we can see that the market has, let me move that. We can see that the market has obviously had this bullishness away from here. So let's just pay attention to what's going on right now. So you can see that the market was clearly having that uptrend. We was creating them higher highs, higher low, higher high, consolidated. This should have been a higher low that created a higher high. It failed to do that. We then created this downtrend. Lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low. Mini pullback, lower high, lower low. So that last week, if you guys remember, our range was from obviously this where this arrow is to here. And then we were talking about the fact that obviously we're going to be moving away from this. So looking at this scenario right now, what's happened? Well, we had this pullback to create a lower high, and then we failed to create a new lower low. So what happened? The market started to move away, and then we got this, where we created a higher high, pullback, higher low, new higher high. Can you guys see exactly how, if I talk as slow as that, can you guys see the trend on the daily, what's going on? You can see that this is a valid pullback. These candles are all valid pullbacks. And now we're in this range right here, from this higher low to this higher high. Can you guys see that? As I just explained. Ooh, amazing, perfect. So looking at this right now, even though it's obviously not the best, we can see that this is a valid pullback. This is now where we're looking at the market. So we're from this area to this area here. So we drop down to the 4. Well, first off, this is my main area. This demand area, we have imbalance below here. So this is where I naturally just want to see the market pull back into and carry on upwards from a daily standpoint. Again, if you guys want, you can use a Fibonacci from your higher low to your higher high to give you a more reasonable understanding that, okay, we want a minimum of 50% retracement. If we retrace 50%, usually what happens, or below 50%, we will then start to obviously, go back to the original direction. So going to the 4, what can we now see? Well, on the 4 hour, we can now see that the market has obviously got a large demand area. And obviously it's not the cleanest. Let's see. If we move all of this, it's not the cleanest. Like we have some imbalance below here, and then we also have this candle here. Two scenarios that I'm looking for. If we get a deep retracement, and then let me just get the Fibonacci again. If we get a deep retracement, I want to use this area here as my liquidity. So I think this low will be taken. And then I want to be seeing the 786 around this area between the 786 met. So what draws my eye straight away is, this candle here. Now, do I believe that we're going to get that? Probably not. Probably not, because we are reacting out of this area here. We are reacting from this area here. So understand, if we was going to carry on bullish right now, we would carry on bullish from this area. Ooh, from this area here. If we don't, I would personally, because it's not the cleanest, I would like to see, if you look, let's say we get this, looking for themselves, if dollar makes sense, down into this deeper part. And if you guys want, the reason I've gone off this candle is because we've got imbalance above. But if you want, you can go off the body of that candle, or if you're even more unsure, you can just go off again. What is the last sell candle that caused this movement to happen and broke the last higher high? Again, last sell candle that causes movement to happen and broke the last higher high. So you guys can obviously have a little mess around if you want this full candle to the body, or you want to do it from here where the imbalance is. Let's just start from here. So then I will make a decision, of course, on this area. Guys, does that make sense? Let me know if it does make sense or not. Again, it's not as clean. If the dollar presents itself for buys, meaning if the dollar does what we just said from this demand area and we start getting bullishness away, I will then look for potential sell ideas if we can break and finish with a candle close below this. Finish with a candle close below this, because it's not as nice looking as the dollar. Let's say we get this. I will then try and participate in sells down into this area. And then I'll just keep an eye out on this area, because then I do expect it to be bullish again. So yeah, pretty easy to understand. Let's have a quick look at GBP USD. So GBPUSD, weirdly enough, if you look at the actual consolidation here, it wasn't as clean as what we would like. Obviously even the pullbacks haven't been as nice. I would have liked to have seen a deeper retracement into this imbalance here. The market didn't do that, and then we obviously went on. I don't think we actually retraced nowhere near the 50%. So there's a lot of demand that's inside of GBP at the moment. So looking at where we're currently at, what can we see? Well, if you look and just keep it basic, from this low here, we had lower low, pullback, lower high, created a lower low, and then we obviously broke. This would be a forward change of trend. We had a pullback, so you can see we created a higher low, higher high, mini pullback, higher low, higher high, mini pullback, higher low, higher high. So can you guys see? This is my valid higher low, this is my valid higher high, and that candle here is a valid pullback. That's a valid candle pullback that created a new higher high. So that is my demand area. So it's a 4-hour demand, but it's also a daily demand. It's not as clean. We don't have these sell candles in here, but it's still a valid demand. So drop into the 4, we can see that the market last week I called up this area, but we failed to tap in lower. I don't think we went to here. No. So we failed to tap in lower to this. My range is from here to here. So as you guys can see, right now we're in the middle of like no man's land. So same scenario, if we was to get a deeper retracement, I'm not interested in buys until we at least get below the 50%. So I would predominantly like this imbalance to be filled, and then I would like to see, a reaction from this area to then look to buy up. But looking at that right now, if the dollar's going to give us the bullishness, we can then look for potential sell ideas. So we can get this, which we're having right now. If you guys want to wait for another break and then just try and look to sell this down, if it makes sense, then of course that's what we can obviously look for. So looking at the 4, we have broken this low, but for me it's not clean enough. Like that's not a 4-hour change of trend because the body of this candle hasn't finished below. That's just a wick. So for me, I won't be looking for any sells. I would not be looking for any sells. All we're doing right now is we are filling this imbalance below here, and we're just reacting from this demand. We're just reacting from this demand, filling this imbalance, and that's all that's going to, be happening. So what I'd wait for is, am I interested in buys from here? Personally, not. Am I interested in sells from here? Personally, not. I need to see either this. I need to see either this. Okay, now we are just going to be sticking out bullish. Okay. Or I need to see either this. A low broke, and then I can participate. I want to see this demand area broke and also another break on here. Does that make sense? Put a Y in the chat if that is clear enough to understand. Looking at AUD USD, pretty clearer than the others. Obviously we had obviously this nice bullish candle on Friday. Is it Tuesday? Yeah, it's Tuesday today. On Friday. So again, we called out this demand area last week, which is obviously good to see it happening. And then we've been in that consolidation stage. I didn't participate, as I'll always be transparent with you guys. I didn't participate in AUD USD. I didn't catch the buys from this area just because if you guys remember us talking about the fact that this is like just disgustingly sideways, disgustingly sideways. So yeah, I didn't participate. But if we look at the candle here, this is giving us a little bit more of a confidence of going, okay, we could actually now potentially see the bullishness happen. Because if we actually just break it down, we have this is that correction phase, slow, choppy, movement up. We then, even though still it's not as choppy as this, but then we come down, we're choppy in here, and then what? We get that nice bullish movement up again, this nice big candle, same here, nice big candles. We come down, we have the choppiness again, and then we get a bit more bullishness here, but we don't break the high. Same again, choppy, correction, And then what have we had now? Bam, bullish. So can you guys see, if you actually just sit back and look and you pay attention to these institutional candles, if you just look left, what's happening before this institutional candle happens? What's happening? Well, usually it's just choppy and slower, and then you get the bullishness. So what can we expect now? I can expect potentially some choppiness, slower movement down, and then potentially a bullishness, big institutional candle. Does that make sense in the chat? So when we talk about the daily time frame, and now we're talking about even on the on pretty much any time frame, even though we're on the daily. So we look at this right now. The next demand area that I've been looking out for is this last candle here. This will be my daily demand. So this last sell candle that caused this movement, that broke this high, is where I expect the market to come into, and we pretty much have. If I look at it from a 4 hour, can I refine that? Can I find a smaller zone? Where is imbalance? That's the first thing I'm going to look out for. So naturally, Fibonacci, can we see at least 50%? Okay, we're below the 50%. Can I see liquidity? Well, these wicks all here, we have imbalance. So what I would naturally like to do, can I see the last sell candle? Inside this demand, can I do the same scenario? Can I find the last sell candle that basically causes movement? Oh, okay. And does it have imbalance above it? Yes, it does. So you can go off this area here. We have imbalance here. I can mark that out if you guys would like to see, and I'll make that red. So we have demand candle. We found a 4 hour demand candle inside of the daily demand, and we have this red, which is an imbalance. Again, if you guys want to refine it to where the imbalance started, you can do this. But again, I would just advise doing this. Can you guys, does it make sense to you? Like, I know obviously some of you guys might be new. Some of you guys rewatching this on replay, it might be completely new. But can you guys see how I'm trying to dissect the market? And I'll start off the daily, and then I'll go down to find my daily demand or supply. Then inside that daily demand or supply, I'm looking for my 4 hour demand or supply and my imbalance and liquidity. Yeah, okay, amazing. So if I see the market come into this area, I want to see a reaction from this to carry on upwards. A reaction from either the imbalance or the demand inside this area to carry on upwards. And using these wicks as liquidity. So where are we currently at right now? Well, even though it's not for me as nice, we are filling in this imbalance here, and we are reacting from this level of demand. This is our level of demand where we are reacting out of. So the one thing that I always just remind you guys is, okay, if the dollar, so we look at what we're on, AUD, USD, if we was to carry on bullish from here, we expect the dollar to carry on bearish from where it's at. So if the dollar was to carry on bearish, then of course it would make sense to look for the buyers with the dollar. But what I want to see is I would like to see a deeper retracement. So maybe I'm being biased, and if we can get that deeper retracement, you can see we had a pullback here. We broke this low. All we're doing right now is we're in this supply area here. It'll be a 1 hour supply area. So if it was to carry on bearish, we're in the same scenario. We're in the same scenario as the dollar. Let me just quickly show you. But the opposite. We're in a demand. We're reacting from that demand area. You guys can see how we're reacting. We're in this supply, which means that we should be reacting from this supply. If I go down to the 1, it will probably be a clearer. Not really. You could have just gone off this candle here, but this is the last valid buy up. Can you guys see how, if you look at the dollar, can you guys see how we're reacting from this demand as we speak on this call when it loads? Can you see how the market is now reacting from this demand? Can you guys see that? Let me know in the chat. Can you see how the volume is slowing down? We've filled in this imbalance. Again, we've filled in this imbalance here. Let me know in the chat if you guys can see that. Yeah, perfect. Which means that demand is still in control. You look at this area here, we've filled in this imbalance here. There's a gap here. There's literally a gap where the market's come back into. But where did we come to? This last candle here. I would have refined it to this. That is my 1 hour demand. So as you guys can see, correction, filled in this imbalance, and the imbalance should be above the demand area. Then we get a reaction and break this high. Where are we coming into now? Well, we're coming into this area here. This imbalance, we can use this as our 1 hour demand, for instance, here. Can we now see the same scenario happen? Can we see, look, early inducement, this wick here, early inducement, people start buying, stop losses are below the low, it then pumps down, fills in the rest of the imbalance, and then we move. Could this be happening in the same scenario? Could we get this, have a slow reaction up, then we come and mitigate, and then we get that true move to happen? So that's what I'm looking for with the dollar, and the same potential with AUD USD. If it was to carry on bearish, it would be bearish from this supply. And then if we are going to be carrying on bearish, I'll be looking to sell into the lowest point basically, and then potentially seeing if this is going to be the next leg to go and create that new daily higher high. So hopefully that makes a bit of sense. Let's see how we react going into the rest of today. And then looking at NZUSD, you can see that the market it was ugly, but if we just follow what was going on from, let's say, this scenario, we have, of course, lower low. This should have been our lower high that created a lower low. But as you guys can see, we got the momentum, but we didn't break this low. We then had what? This mini uptrend happening. We had the higher high, the little higher low, the little higher high, internal structure, higher low, and now we've got this higher high. So pretty clear this last. In fact, let me know in the chat. Let me just don't no one say. Let me just quickly. Where's the chat? Callum, Callum, maybe you can, bro, unmute yourself, and I want you to tell me where is going to be my daily demand candle. If you can unmute yourself, bro, you don't have to put on camera.
Yes, bro.
Can you hear me? So if you can, I know obviously you've got a little bit more experience, but again, just to put you out your comfort zone. In this scenario right now, I've just obviously said this is my higher low, this is my higher high. Where is it that's drawing you to a demand area? Where do you think the daily demand area is?
With that last sell candle where the imbalance is.
This one?
Where we've had that pullback. No,
This
no.
one here? This one here?
No.
This one here?
No. Yeah, that one.
Buzzing. And why would that be your last demand candle, bro?
Because it's the last pull down before the break.
Okay. Is there another confirmation, another confidence that you can see why the market could potentially retrace into this demand?
Yeah, we've got an imbalance above.
Yeah.
And it's below the 50%.
Spot on, bro. Appreciate you. Appreciate it. So as you guys have just seen, Callum's seen it. Callum's seen, okay, that's my demand. We've got imbalance above. This is my higher low, my higher high. Guys, just put some ones in the chats for Callum as well if you can. Obviously, speaking on camera early in the morning, it's not the nicest. So yeah, show some love to Callum inside of the chat. But if you guys can see, we can obviously expect the market to fill in this imbalance, tap into this demand, and then go and create that higher high. So that's exactly what I'd be expecting the market to do. So with that being said, I'm going to just quickly 50% is below the 50%, it's around the 618. Okay, amazing. Now let's go to the 4. Can I find a demand candle inside of this daily demand, which we could potentially be traced to? Well, if you look at this, we've got a lot of imbalance below. A lot of imbalance below. So if we was to potentially come in, we've got imbalance here, imbalance here. Yeah, if it was to potentially come to the lowest point, I would just look at, either 2 or 3 of these last candles. If I look at this last 2 candles, for instance, pretty simple. I can go, okay, do you know what? I don't quite understand where the demand candle could be. It's not as nice as this demand candle here or this demand candle here. So I'm just going to use 2 candles. I'm just going to use 3 candles, and it doesn't matter. You might have a bit of a bigger stop loss, but it does not matter. So looking at this, let's say we've got this area here, we've got imbalance, of course, that's where we want to see the market come back into. If we do that, where is that with the Fibonacci? Well, that's around the 618 to the 886, which again is a perfect scenario and a perfect retracement for us to see this happen. So that's what I'm looking for the long term, looking at that. But for the short term, what can we see going on? Again, if the dollar is bullish and we're looking to sell to buy the dollar, we're looking to sell the correlated pairs just for now. We have a mini pullback, and then we have this break. So we have a mini trend that's happening, a 1 hour trend. And that 1 hour trend is from here as my lower high. And here is my lower low. Can you guys see that? So with that being said, Michaela, I want you to unmute. I'm going to ask you to unmute and do the same thing. So if this is a 1 hour range here, if you can't do it as well, just let me know. I know you're probably busy with a little one, even though it's not so little anymore. If you can unmute me and let me know, where do you think the supply candle is in this scenario here?
So
Here she is.
wait, I have to think. It's early morning for supply and demand.
You listen, you might not know, and I don't want you to feel uncomfortable. This is just, I'm just playing around.
It's gonna
with,
be
you
one
know,
of the black. It's confused me because you got gray and black.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like I've just
It's gonna
literally
be
got
one of the
every
black
color in the
candles
rainbow.
there.
So which one do you reckon the candle is?
I'm gonna go with that little one.
This one here.
Yeah.
Perfect. Exactly. Spot on. So at least like even Michaela's so experienced with her trading journey as well, that this is a completely different. I appreciate you, by the way, Michaela. This is a completely different strategy to Michaela. So even Michaela's starting to pick it up a little bit. That's a valid, pullback on a lower time frame. So remember, if you look at this right now, guys, just put some love in the chats for Michaela, please, as well. Please give us some love. Amazing. So as you guys can see right now, this is a valid supply area, this candle. We've had this institutional candle that broke this low, and we're now filled in this imbalance as well. The market is tapped into that supply, and if it was to carry on downwards, this is into this area, we should be able to see it go bam, 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 we've pulled back, and then break this lower low. And again, same scenario, break the lower low, can we see a retracement to get in again? So pretty self-explanatory, I can't say that word. But you guys, same scenario, look at the dollar again, we're reacting bullish, which means NZUSD, we're reacting bearish. Easy to understand. So yeah, looking to sell into this area, that's where I'll be looking to sell from. Now, looking at USD CAD, you can see that the market is obviously been extremely bearish. We got this change of trend from here. And obviously right now, where do we expect the market to come into? USD has not been my favorite as we speak. We have this institutional candle, and this little pullback here is my daily supply. Filling this imbalance, I would like to see, pardon me, that, and then carry on down. That's from a daily standpoint. Now, because it's not as clean, let's look at the 4 a set. You can probably see it a little bit more. You probably be able to see it a little bit more. Let's just move that. That was my last pullback, and then we had that low. This is where I told you guys to look for sells from. I think Michaela caught USD CAD sells, correct me if I'm wrong, from this area. So shout out to Michaela. So right now, even though it's a lot of momentum down, we have this as our range from here to this lower low. So with this being said, we want to see a retracement, for me anyway, to at least the 50%. Ideally, I want to see it above the 618 and filling this imbalance coming to this daily supply. So this is where I basically want to look for the sells from here to carry on to create that new daily lower low. So if that is the case, what's going on here right now, even though it's not as nice, you can see that. Let's just focus on this. Mini pullback, lower low. That should have been a lower high to go and create a new lower low. Failed to do that. And then we had this little break up. So we're inside of this range here. We're inside of this low. It's more of a 1 hour trend. I can go to the 1 hour and see it as well. In this little range here. And this is where we are reacting from. Exactly the same scenario as the US dollar. That's my 4 hour demand. if I want to refine it and make it a little bit more clean, I kind of see it better on the 1 hour. Where you can see the range a bit better on the 1 hour. So you can see higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high. Pretty easy. And we're reacting from this demand area right now. So again, pretty same as the demand. Look at the dollar, sorry. Dollar's bullish. We should expect USD CAD to carry on bullish from here as well. Put a Y in the chat if that makes sense. So yeah, looking to see if we can potentially get that upwards movement. You know, let's say we can even get pulled back into this supply, and then we're going to be looking for the sells on there as well. Nearly done, guys. Nearly done. USD CHF, let's see what is going on. Yeah, to be fair, USD CHF is looking peak, like it's not, it looks horrible. But if you look at this scenario, if you look at this scenario, pullback, this was a demand. We failed to go and create a new higher high, so this should have been a higher low. We come back up here, created that new lower high once we broke this low. But as you guys can see, pull back again, mitigate this area. We then had this movement away. Where did we come back into? Here. And now we moved away. So my range is from this lower high to this lower low. So let me point this out. We have this range that we're in, this lower high, lower low to this lower high. Straight away, this is my supply candle. This last buy up before this movement down. That's my daily supply. We've pretty much tapped into that. We should come a little bit more deeper. And now I want to find a 4-hour supply inside of this range. So again, nothing is as clear. We've got a little bit of imbalance here. So I don't really like the look of USD CHF, just to be real. So what I would do if I don't like the look of it, same scenario. Fibonacci tool from the low to the high, or the high to the low. And I'd be looking at having a supply area around the 618, 786, 886. Let's say it's the 786. I could go, okay, do you know what? I might just do from this candle here to the top. All right, I'll just have my supply as this 4-hour supply. If I'm unsure, I can use, guys, I can use a Fibonacci if I'm unsure. Does it make sense? Okay, I'll have that as my 4-hour supply. Sweet. If it misses out and doesn't work out, it's fine. So yeah, that's what I'm pretty much waiting for. I don't really like the look of USD CHF, but I do expect the bearishness to carry on. Even the scenario here is not the same as USD CAD, as you guys see, a bit more bullish than USD CHF, USD Swiss franc. So yeah, I'm going to stay away from that. USD Japanese yen. Let's have a quick look. If you look at this, you can see that the market has come into this demand supply. Go to the thoughts a lot more clearer. You can see that the market has basically tapped, 1 second, not tapped into the supply. But if you look, this is my lower high. This is my lower low here. So we've got this range going on, this lower high to this lower low. So this is where the break is. So what do we expect? Okay, imbalance is all here. I would like to personally see this supply with this imbalance filled. Now, where we're currently reacting from is this area of supply here. That's not enough for me personally to look for sells, because there's imbalance above and it's really sticking out. It's really telling me like, no, this is early inducement. You know, we're going to react slowly and then we're going to punch above into the supply and then we're going to carry on. So this is what I'm expecting the market to do. Let's see if I can be Mystic Mac. Start reacting slowly, people getting for sells. We then punch up to fill in this imbalance here, tap into this supply, and then that's the true movement away from here. Take everyone's stop loss, and then we'll move away. So, me personally, this is my 4-hour supply I'm going to wait for. And then if we do that, that is obviously where I'm going to look to sell. If you look at this scenario, if the dollar's bullish right now, what can we see? We broke above this last high. So we broke above this last lower high. Where does the imbalance start? Well, the imbalance started on this candle here, this wick. So this is where I expect the market to come back into. So this is going to be my 4-hour demand. It's a bit risky, but see if we can get that. See if we can get a pullback into here and try and look for them buys. And then we want to see how the market reacts on this supply, because this could be where we then get this. But just make sure that you guys understand. Let me just quickly show you something. If we get the Fibonacci from here to here, we're above the 50%. Usually when the market comes above that 50%, that's when it could be the next catapult to go and create a new lower low. Just put a 1 in the chat if that makes sense. Remember, if we go above the 50%, if we're in a downtrend, and then we use the Fibonacci from the range of the lower high and the lower low, usually the market will come to, obviously, above the 50%. If we go above, that'll be then where the market goes and gets this. Usually we want to see a deeper retracement, but I'm just saying, if we do go above that 50%, it's valid for then the market to sell off. So just be aware that on USD Japanese yen, we are above that 50% here. This is the 50% line. But I still would look for what the dollar's doing. If the dollar's going to be bullish from here, then of course we can expect potential bullishness from USD Japanese yen. Okay, that is the major pairs for today. Has anyone got any questions at all? Anyone wants anything answered? Oh, I've got a busy day. We're getting a artificial wall in 5 minutes in our garden. So I think I have to get in a freezing pool in a matter of fucking 5 minutes, which I'm not looking forward to. But yeah, has anyone got any questions? If you haven't got any questions, put an N in the chat, and then you guys can jump off. Other than that, I appreciate every single one of you. It's my birthday tomorrow. I'm still gonna do the call, I think, unless I'll find out if I've got anything planned. If I've got anything planned for my birthday in the morning, I might not be able to do the call. But yeah, man, I appreciate every single one of you. I'm looking forward to what's to come as well. I'm looking forward to working on a one-to-one basis. Also for you guys, I want you to know as well, going into this next opportunity, I want to book in. So I want every single person to have a one-to-one call with me every 2 weeks as a minimum. So let's say it's a Friday at 5 p.m. Me and Michaela, every 2 weeks, we have a call and we talk trading. And if you do business, we talk business as well. So again, let's organize that. But other than that, I appreciate you guys, and we will catch up inside our chats. God bless.